So hey there, thanks for checking out my live videos. I do appreciate it. So we're gonna do a little, reboxing. So originally I did a video that was unboxing, but we've gone ahead. We tried to do the install on this 9-inch touchscreen, and there's just some fundamental flaws with it. So let's just take a look at it, and we'll go from there. So the issue that I have, a couple issues. So on the install, unfortunately, the climate control on the temperature control. So the display feature on the car will actually give you Fahrenheit. So it'll actually tell you, you're at 73 or you're at 62, or, that type of thing. And this does have that. So there's a feature here that gives you the actual temperature, what's coming out the vent, and you can play with it as far as that's concerned, but it doesn't actually rise on the screen. So it doesn't actually show the proper temperature. It's stuck at 63 degrees, right? So that's a problem with the digital climate control. So, the climate control would sit in here, then down on this lower end, it basically mirrors what the factory unit would have had. So vent control, fan, temperature, dual control, all there. It's just that it doesn't actually register the switches. So it doesn't actually register the temperature change within its system onto itself. So that could be a problem with a host of things. It could be a communication issue. It could be an issue with wiring. It could be an issue with the actual hardware from the factory. In other words, this might be set up for 2012, mine's at 2013. So it could just be a variation, but still, it makes it a fundamentally flawed product. Now, that one I was kind of going to go, okay, well, maybe I'll live with it because you can still go high and low and it still does kind of work as far as that's concerned. The dilemma is that the audio controls on the on the steering wheel, they weren't functional either. The seek and scan function, not functional. Now, after playing with it for a little bit, I did manage to get the steering wheel control to work on volume. So it wouldn't use the mute button. It wouldn't use the phone. So in other words, it's not really a complicated system. It's only like 3 buttons there to deal with, but it wouldn't communicate with them regardless of what I did with the actual setup. So it was one of those things where it just wouldn't learn what it was doing. So very annoying from that standpoint. So I spent a fair bit of time fiddling with just the settings on this to try and get it to work. Now, out of the gate, I did a try fitting. So in other words, I had it hooked up without the vents in and kind of just loosely assembled. And it powered up and it provided noise. Now, it didn't have the antenna for it, so it was just static, essentially, right? But I could get noise through the speakers. When I went out in the morning to go ahead and finish off or button it up, it wouldn't do any audio. So it was one of those things where I checked online, and a lot of folks were saying the factory amp has to be powered to be able to work. And there is a plug. So if we take a look, there is already a power point for the amp. So it's already in the actual wire harness on this one. So this is a newer wire harness. I think the older units, you'd have to add this power point. So I think that's the solution to it. Annoyingly, just so you're aware, if you're doing the assembly, this is the limited range when you're moving the actual wiring around. So your hand is behind the unit. If this was 3 inches longer, it would actually make the install incredibly easier, as ridiculous as that sounds. Whereas all the other wiring seems to have that extra few inches to it, so you got a little room to play with it. Whereas that one just makes it incredibly annoying. But anyway, so that it does have the power to the amp, and it did work very, very briefly. So it's one of those things where, okay, so I couldn't get the sound to work or return to function. I couldn't get the controls to function properly on the steering wheel. And I noticed that as I was working with it or fiddling with it, the back of the unit, I don't know if this is how it operates, will seem to get quite warm. And that might be the backlighting with it. Like that could just be what it is. But the top corner was getting to the point where it was kind of like, wow, that's very noticeable. So it was one of those things that you kind of go, okay, what are you going to do? So it's being returned. It's one of those things where just because of a couple of the features aren't functional, and because it's a bit of a hurdle. Now, the other one that I find annoying is that it did come in a plain brown box, which is fine. Yeah, I'm not complaining about that. But it has that feeling like it was wrapped by hand prior to me getting it. And it doesn't have the film on the screen for protection. There are some of the clips here that do have little rubbing marks where someone has slid a clip on it and then back off of it. So I think this is actually a product return, which there is a review in there where they said they returned the unit because it didn't have sound and full functions weren't there. So I'm wondering if this is the exact unit that they just sent out, hoping that maybe it was an install issue and the next guy in wouldn't have a problem, kind of their way of bench testing it. But annoying, to say the least. So that was a good evening of fussing around to get it. I'm going to tell you, there's a really good video out there on the install of this unit. And the guy there below, really helpful as far as that's concerned. It's about 15 minutes. It doesn't take 15 minutes to install this. It's about 2 hours because you got to fiddle with if you, how would I put this? If you want to maintain your trim and bright work and you want to do it slow and kind of get the clips to release gingerly, there's a couple of them I do have to force, but it's one of those things where you rip the dashboard a couple times apart to put a stereo system in, it's going to start rattling and squeaking and making all kind of crazy noises. So you want to go nice and slow. So it definitely took some time to do it. So a little annoyed by that. So an evening and a morning, essentially, of trying to troubleshoot a product that was irritating. So the other ones, I did install the GPS mic. So I had that routed up to the dashboard. I had a bunch of little peripherals kind of installed as well. So it got to the point where it was just frustration where I said to myself, let's package this back up. Let's send it back. Once the refund goes through Amazon, I'll look for another one. Amazon didn't offer a replacement. So I don't know if that's the process with them. I don't usually return items. It's very rare that I run into a problem. So I don't know if they just don't have a replacement for this particular unit, or they've said, hey, we've had enough returns on it. It's not worth the headache to offer you a replacement. So again, single sheet of bubble wrap in a box with loose cables, and it was double taped, and it's kind of an arbitrary brown box. So, and I get it, it's a jobber part, but it's one of those things you look at, you kind of go, I think it was a return. So that's my thoughts on that. I should have just looked at it and said, okay, some of the clips have been used. I should have just said that the packing isn't quite right. I should have sent it right back. But I decided to fuss with it, thinking, okay, silver lining, things being equal, maybe it's fine. So again, a little frustrating. So that's for the 2013 Hyundai Genesis. So that's our new arrival into the Turo fleet. So I did a series of videos already, but I accidentally deleted them by hitting delete all. Don't ask. Late night working is what it is. Got to live with it, right? So we picked up this 2013 Hyundai Genesis. It's a limited. It's a nice car, but it's not the top end model. So it doesn't have a nav package or a display feature like the top model would, right? So I thought, well, I'll pick this up. It's a pretty affordable option to have a mapping system and to have an upgraded audio package. Some omissions. So on their display or their little screen in the ad, it shows a TomTom mapping system. So you kind of think, okay, it's got already loaded into it, which is what I assumed. It doesn't. So you have to download maps, which unto itself isn't such a big deal. It's just one step I didn't want to deal with. So the fact it didn't have the mapping is another issue why it's going back. The other one is that they omitted that the CD player is not functional with this unit. So some of them they are. So some of them actually have the kit or the wiring to allow you to have function for the CD drive. It's not that that's a big deal. I don't think very many people use CDs. So it's one of those things that's a throwback. But it's one of those things that because the CD doesn't function, it's now a non-functional unit in the dashboard. There really should be included with this um, a pocket or a little piece of plastic trim to cover the CD player, so it kind of it's a deleted option. It would make like that's what should be available with this, and it's something I could make like if I had to, but it's one of those things you look at, you kind of go, it doesn't have the CD function. It's going to be a bit of a hassle. So I don't know why you don't have it as an additional add-on, or it's included in the kit work or the bright work. The bright work on this actually is a little brighter than the factory, so it's a standard silver. When you look at the Hyundai product, it's a silver, but it's got a smoke to it, so it's a little bit of a contrast there. So if you're looking at these, there's the trim work is a little brighter. You either like it or you don't. It's one of those things, right? So um, the pressing or the way the plastic is formed, you can kind of see where it's joined together, and so it's one of those things. If you were a car enthusiast, like, then you were putting this in because it's going to, bring up your car, and I would probably wrap the actual piece of trim, or I would paint it or put another layer of clear on it, and I would probably make the clear a little smoky, just to kind of match it up with the rest of the trim work. If you had the leatherette interior with the dash leather, I would probably not use the silver. I would probably wrap that. It would look very nice as kind of like a faux finished checkered pattern, like a houndstooth would probably look really good on that. So one of those things that I think would probably blend nicely with that interior. But it's one of those things on that one, it's perfectly acceptable for a Turo car. But again, it's going back. I'm going to put the videos up of me installing it. Again, they're just highlights because there's such a good video there to watch on YouTube already. It's pretty straightforward. If you're a stereo install guy, the only thing I was doing was saying, hey, on my model, this is a feature that it seems to be an issue. So again, frustrating from that standpoint, but it's going to be returned. So that's a little reboxing video, as it were. So again, I'm trying to dress this car up a little bit, just to kind of give it a little bit more curb appeal so that I can get a little more traffic with it. Right now, I think it's going to compete with a Sonata. It's going to compete with probably a Toyota Camry, kind of that category of car. Um, and just the nature of it. So that's kind of the goal, but I like to have it so someone will get and go, okay, it's got the Navi and it's got a few little nice little things. So for all intents and purposes, it's loaded without lane mitigation or that brake assist with the cruise control. So that's what it would be missing from that standpoint. So I'm going to do some more videos on the Hyundai. Again, we'll talk about what a cash car is in the Hyundai world, how it's worked out for me on Turo. And we'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll talk about the business model of it for Turo. So again, I did a video on that already, but we deleted it. So we'll do another one. We'll also talk about Ontario safeties because I did a little video on that, but deleted it. So again, it'll be on that Hyundai. And I still haven't done a full vehicle walk around yet. I've done a run out to own sound. We've done the safety. We've done brakes. We've done a few little things for maintenance. And now we're just doing the getting it ready Turo stuff. So again, I do appreciate you checking out the videos. Thank you very much. Again, if you thumbs up or you subscribe, I would greatly appreciate it. It just kind of feeds the machine, okay, and it kind of keeps me motivated to do this because it's just a hobby. Okay, thank you very much. Have a pleasant and enjoyable day.